Hello, nerds, and welcome. My name is Travis. We are crossing the Nerdverse, bringing you yet another rift in the Nerdverse. Got almost the full crew tonight. I am joined by Eric and Ryan, and we are going to recap the WWE Draft, specifically Night 2, the show I was at. So before we get into that, how have you guys been? I know it was kind of a short weekend for most of you.
I mean, it wasn't bad. I mean, it was good. A lot of Star Wars. Unfortunately, all of our brand stuff has fallen to the wayside because I've been playing Star Wars on ultra hard mode or Grandmaster, whatever they want to call it. So every like remotely big fight is like 30 minutes of my life because I have to
Going full
die
sweaty
15
mode, huh?
times. So
We have to
yeah,
memorize the
that's been,
exact attack pattern, when it's going to happen, exactly when you're supposed to press
dude.
your dodge, which attack you can use, which direction you have to be pressing on the stick when the attack is made, so you can then subsequently dodge in the correct direction. That game is very sweaty.
But
Very sweaty game.
we're gonna talk about it in depth on another day because I do want to go over it because there's a lot of good story plots to it, and I want to wait until people get a chance to beat it, including myself,
Mm,
before we
Yeah,
get too
don't.
much into it. But I definitely want to go over because we're some geeky Star Wars people.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, and this week's perfect for it because we have Star Wars Day coming up. May the 4th is rolling up. We've been discussing some special episodes and stuff for Star Wars Day, which I'm really excited about. But tonight, that is not the case because tonight's very exciting. I'm actually pretty stoked.
Yes. I got to go witness the second night of the draft for WWE. Those of you that don't know, the draft is basically the superstar shakeup for WWE. It gives people a chance to explore different feuds, try out new character arcs, maybe make a heel turn, maybe make a face turn. Basically lets them shake up a lot of their marketing. That way you don't get the same tired character over and over again. It's hard to develop heel and face turns on a show that's always has to be a pretty slow build. If you pick somebody up and plop them on a new show, the transition just becomes a little easier. You can showcase it a little better, that drastic turn, instead of having it be a slow build. So as it sits, most of it was to be expected on who got drafted where. Charlotte Flair is, of course, staying on SmackDown. She is the queen of SmackDown. She will be Friday nights almost exclusively from here on out. Same thing with Roman Reigns. He does not enjoy working on Mondays. Who does? So he's going to go to SmackDown. That did open them up for a new title, which was announced. The WWE World Heavyweight title will be making a comeback. So look forward to the tournament that will be crowning the new champion at, I believe, Night of Champions is when that's happening. But on to the show. We opened up with Triple H, everybody's favorite, Papa H. Still firmly in charge of creative. Vince does have veto power, which is not what we're going to get into because I'll go on a very swear word laden rant.
Hey, it's rant worthy though. Like, good
God,
grief.
there's very few people I hate at the same level as I do Vince McMahon these days.
Well,
But
you got to think though, real quick, like Triple H being so young, not young, but so new to like doing what he did with the show for a while and being so good at it. It's just so weird that like Vince would even want to take back over control. Like I get you got the egotistical stuff and things like that, but
it's
at the
it's
end of the day,
100%
man, like
ego.
he was making him so much money. Like the show was, I was about to get back into it, and then I read Vince's, and I'm like, I'll play video games.
He got pretty heavily involved on one night right after the couple of nights after WrestleMania. He's taken a back seat again, which is fantastic, which Triple H again doing just a fantastic job with creative. But he opened the show to announce the start of the draft. Like I said, picks were to be expected. Charlotte Flair staying SmackDown. Roman Reigns was the very first draft pick for SmackDown 2. That happened that Friday before. But first round was Charlotte, Austin Theory going to SmackDown, of course, to counter Gunther, who went over to Raw. Um, Raw got Rhea Ripley, which was a good get for them. I think she's going to do much better being showcased on Raw than she would on SmackDown. They have a much deeper women's roster, and they've got a longer show, so gives her a
And
little more time to work out.
and since she got that belt, man, she is all over Twitter. Like fans are in love. It's been nuts.
Dude,
Like I didn't hear much about her until she won the belt. Now I don't even have a lot of wrestling on my Twitter, and like, dude, it is everywhere.
she's
It's crazy.
she's the muscle mommy, right? Like that's the whole gimmick now is that, which we're gonna get into that because that lead probably to my favorite spot of the entire night. And then Seth freaking Rollins will be staying on Monday night. He is in fact Monday Night Rollins. Um, hey, that's his nickname, man, Mr. Monday Night.
Mr.
There's
Monday Night.
who was it before him? Was it like Angle? Wasn't Angle like some sort of?
No, it wasn't Angle.
Trying to think who.
I forget who else was calling themselves Mr. Monday Night. But I mean, it's true. The dude carried Raw as the only title holder when Brock had the title belt hostage, essentially, where he was a part timer. He showed up at maybe 3 to 5 pay-per-views a year, and then none of the TV shows. So you can't showcase your most important title on the show. So Rollins carried it with the Intercontinental belt for a really long time. Those were some dark days. We try not to speak of them. But yeah, that led to the first segment was Triple H announcing the wise man of the bloodline, which is Paul Heyman, who came out to an okay level of booze. I feel like we probably could have been a little more vehement with him, but it was the start of the show. People are usually not as into it until there's a couple of matches in.
Right.
He had a face-off with Seth Rollins, which essentially set up the main event for the night. Seth Rollins versus Solo Sikoa. Bright future for Solo Sikoa. Those of you that don't know, son of Rikishi. He looks like his papa, not quite the same size because Rikishi a big fucking dude, but very similar facial appearance-wise. They even have a few of common move sets: Samoan drop, the big booty bump into the corner. But um,
Did
still
they get
sowing the
any
seeds
good
of
like?
discord for.
Did they get any good like feuds started that night? Like any new ones? I didn't
No,
really get to catch too much of it.
it basically the draft night is the cap for most feuds. It's the final note for a lot of them before going into new feuds. A lot of them had been set up before. Brock Lesnar, Cody Rhodes is still going to be an ongoing feud. That's going to stay until probably Night of Champions if I were a gambling man. Uh, just because it's the easiest one, it's already set up. You already have some character drive between the two on that one. But yeah, Heyman promo when as expected. He talked about the tribal chief. We did start chanting "Live in the moment" when he got on his cell phone in the ring, because people were telling Paul he needed to be in the moment and not on his phone, which I thought was pretty solid.
New World.
Right. But yeah, Seth Rollins confronts Paul Heyman. Solo Sikoa, of course, gets involved. He is the enforcer for the Bloodline. Set up the main event for it. Pretty standard stuff for a show like this. And that was the open. First commercial break came after that. We did get a tag match. Bayley, one of my wife's favorite wrestlers, who this was her first
That's a nice start
pro
though,
wrestling
man. Like
show, which
especially
is
with Ripley being there, like to start with her to get
no,
her
it
in
was
that very.
Bayley and Dakota Kai. Ripley was the first pick of the night for the draft. I mean, she was the first get for Raw.
That's what I mean. Like that's a huge way to start. That's a nice way to like jump
Yeah.
into it.
Well, it should have been. Like, she's just nuclear heat, fantastic performer. She's strong as hell. I watched her basically dead press a grown ass man above her head. We'll get to that match later. Fantastic match. Absolutely love anything she's involved with. The Bayley Dakota
New
Kai
China.
versus the Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. That match was okay. I don't know what the hell WWE is doing with the women tag team titles. I know we talked about this in the WrestleMania recap where I was just like,
Oh yeah.
they're just throwing two female superstars together and hoping to strike lightning, I guess. It's kind of like Ryan trying to build a campfire. He's just out there banging two rocks together with the lighter in his pocket. Like they just.
You'll get somewhere eventually.
Yeah, something will happen.
I mean, if you look like, didn't they before like Attitude? That was kind of like their philosophy with male tag team people. They had a lot of like, I mean, they had their standard ones like the Bushwhackers and stuff like that, but they threw together a lot of like randos.
Yeah, They never really went anywhere like too terribly much.
No.
You had occasional title runs with like RVD and Kane where you just had two people that couldn't lose to the tag team division because they were always in the title picture.
Yes.
Brothers of the Destruction being another big one with Kane and Undertaker. Like, of course they're going to win the tag team titles. Who's beating both Kane and the Undertaker? Like, that shit, like, it's just not really feasible with the way they had built them. Now you have a lot more like really established tag teams, which is great. I love tag team wrestling. It's always exciting, especially when they have like a tag team move that they do. You know, the big
Yes.
rig, the heart
Yeah.
attack, yeah, the Tower of Doom. You know, you gotta love those like coordinated tag team maneuvers. The women's tag division, I'm sorry, I may catch heat for this. Boring.
I mean, it's. I don't want like I stopped watching as Attitude was ending and like the female division was taking off. And at the time, it seemed to me it was more looks. Now it seems a lot more skill. I've only caught like some random matches here and there. I really do. I got to get into it more now that we're going to talk about it more often. But I could kind of see that if they're not doing it right, like male tag teams, like they build a bond, like especially the really good ones, like Legion of Doom back in the day.
Yeah.
Like you got to build something. You can't just when you slap two people together. I find it doesn't work as well. And
Well, there's just
especially if they're
no.
all slapped together. Like if you just have like
Yeah.
one tag team that slapped together, that makes sense. But like if you're only have like one established team, like you mentioned Ronda Rousey and her partner, if that's
Yeah.
your only established team, like that just weakens your
You know,
division.
100%, and it cheapens the belt really because again,
Yeah.
nobody really cares because it's just people they don't have an individual story for end up in the tag division, which is a shame because there's a lot of really talented women that are competing for the women's tag team belt, but it hardly matters. None of it's exciting. You had Damage Control, established tag team, right? They lost to two people that were slapped together. You have Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey, who make a fantastic team. Neither one of them belong on the mic for any extended period of time, besides saying your local sports team sucks, and then they throw the mic just to get cheap booze. That's fine. I don't need to hear Ronda Rousey talk because she's bad at it. I don't need to hear Shayna Baszler talk because she's bad at it. What I need them to do is go down to the ring, demolish people on the same level that the Dudley Boys were just crushing the tag team division, or the APA, one of Ryan's favorites, went out and just crushed the tag team division, right? You put them on a heater, anybody that steps up to them just gets absolutely beat up. I mean, that's two people who are established professional fighters. Make it believable that this person is going to tap out instantaneously to an armbar. Make it believable that when Shayna Baszler hits you with a forearm, it's lights out. Sell it. And they just
Yeah.
don't. And I don't understand why they're not capitalizing on that. But
Well,
I'm
and
not in the
see,
back. Maybe they're hated.
yeah, and that's kind of where I'm sitting too, because a lot of these matchups and a lot of the stuff they're doing does feel very slapped together, and it makes me wonder if they're narratively trying to capture lightning in a bottle, right? They're trying different stuff in order to create something of like an organic new title tag team, and it's just not working great.
Yeah, and like I said, and it cheapens the belts too, because the Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, both individually fantastic stars, both individually over with the crowd, right? They lost to Damage Control, the heels. And it was fairly clean. I mean, a blind tag, which is legal, led to the surprise roll up, and that's the victory. But it didn't mean anything. Your champions just took a huge L on one of your flagship shows to Damage Control, who have been on a significant losing streak over the past 6 months. What's that say about your champions?
Mm-hmm.
So, very well performed. Everybody that was in that ring is phenomenally talented. It was nice to cheer for Bayley while everybody was booing her, but I will always cheer for Bayley. She is the huggable one. We'll come back to that. Well, I know she's going to come back to that gimmick one day, and I'm going to be excited for it. They'll have the little blow up dudes. It'll be great. We got to round two. Got to see Booker T and Queen Charmel come out. Always love to hear "Can You Dig It, Sucka" play real loud over the speakers. They announced that both Cody and Brock would be live on air that night, which had been established before, because if Brock's showing up, of course Cody's going to show up. That is the big hot feud for the top of Raw. Next round. So yeah, beginning of round 2 for the draft, we got Sami Zayn and KO were drafted to Raw. Was expecting that. Both had been on SmackDown for pretty significant a time, so it wasn't too surprising to see those guys get picked right away. SmackDown, of course, counters the pick with the Usos. We're finally ending that feud. Thank God. Because it's time for them to move on. Sami Zayn and KO are both phenomenally talented people. I don't want them to get bogged down in a story that just keeps going and going and going. Judgment Day gets to stay on Raw. They will be running the Raw show, which is fantastic. Which again is going to lead into my favorite spot of the night because Dominic Mysterio just has nuclear heat. Most hated man in professional wrestling, and I love it. Latino World Order is going to SmackDown, so we're splitting up Dominic and Rey, so that's the end of that feud. Which again, thank goodness it's time for both of those guys to move on to other stuff. Next match of the night, probably two of my favorite tag teams currently, which is Braun Strowman and Ricochet. Originally, Braun Strowman got paired up with Ricochet as punishment for a Twitter post making fun of the flippy dippy doodah. He was like, you won't see these flippy dippy guys get a 5-star match. Basically talking about how great he was and how anybody that does flips and jumps and stuff like that is trash. So they paired him with Ricochet, who does nothing but flips and jumps. And now they're a super over tag team. Like, one of the maneuvers they do, which I think is absolutely fantastic, is that Braun Strowman, who stands at nearly 7 feet tall, will pick up Ricochet and use him as a human missile. And it's freaking hilarious because he just yeets him into the opposing team. And it's a cool spot every single time. Like, it's a nothing spot. There's very little danger involved to it. He just grabs Ricochet and then throws him into people, which I think is super fun. It looks a lot like the Thor Loki, where it's help my brother.
Oh yeah. That's a good one. But on a serious note, Ricochet, that's an interesting name choice.
You should look up some of his matches. That dude, he had a fantastic match in Japan against Will Ospreay. You want to talk about two insanely athletic people? That's the pair to watch.
The most athletic tag team ever will always be the Rockers, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty.
We'll disagree on that one. I think both of those guys were, I think both of those dudes were fueled by pain pills and alcohol. But yeah, Braun Strowman and Ricochet versus Alpha Academy, which is Chad Gable and Otis, or Otis if he's hanging out with the maximum male models. Pretty quick match, maybe a 5-minute match. Ricochet and Braun got the win. You got to hear Chad Gable say "shoosh," which is like the Alpha Academy's thing. I also got to see him do another dead hang German suplex, which is so cool because he just deadlifts him up off the ground over the top of his head and into a German suplex. Super athletic, super dope maneuver to watch. Didn't hit it on Braun Strowman this time like he did last time. Did it on Ricochet, which is less impressive, but still super cool. That match pretty standard. We're putting Ricochet and Braun Strowman over Alpha Academy. They've been on a losing streak. Hopefully that's going to turn around as soon as the draft is done shaking everything up. We'll see. Shawn Michaels was out next. He got cut off because Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar had to get into it. Cody snuck up on Brock, bopped him in the face, chasing him out of the ring. Security broke it up. Cody Rhodes got a bunch of cheers. Brock got a bunch of boos. Pretty standard stuff. We'll be seeing them at Backlash. They'll have probably one of the big main event matches. Good segment overall. I like it. I always like seeing those hype ones where the good guy sneaks in and gets one over on the bad guy. Shawn Michaels back out again to finally do his draft announcements. He did both SmackDown and Raw because for whatever reason Adam Pearce didn't come back. But Asuka goes to SmackDown. The New Day, which is Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, goes to Raw. Brawling Brutes to SmackDown, which is Sheamus, Ridge Holland, and Butch. It was a little sad I didn't get to see Sheamus or Drew McIntyre, but it is what it is. After that, we had Riddle, accompanied by KO and Sami Zayn, out to the ring against Jimmy Uso, who was accompanied by, of course, by Jay. They did the Eddie Guerrero spot. I think Ryan will remember this one. That may have been when he was still watching, where Eddie Guerrero would bop the chair against the ground while the ref's back was turned and then toss it to his opponent and act like he got hit in the head. So the ref just
Oh
called,
yeah,
yeah,
that
they did
was that was right before I started drifting away.
yeah,
But yeah,
fantastic
absolutely.
spot. It gets a chuckle every time, and then KO just sold it like an absolute champion. Anytime the ref turned back and looked at him, even after Jay got kicked out from ringside, anytime the ref turned around to look at that side of the ring, KO was like grabbing his neck and like hunched over and pretending his head was hurt. Um, he pretended to be dizzy like one time and was like all weak kneed. Fantastic job just overselling the shit out of the fact that he was hit by a chair. Absolutely loved it. KO is just way too good. Um, Riddle picked up the win. Pretty standard stuff. Hit him with the floating bro to round out the match.
That's my
Pretty
new
standard.
favorite move.
The floating bro.
Yeah, I don't even know what it is. It just sounds
Not
cool.
not to be confused with his other finishing move, the bro Derek. Matt Riddle, he goes by the original bro. That's his nickname. Everybody chants bro when he comes to the ring. So,
Respect.
yeah, I love it. So the match ended. Jimmy Uso tried to take off the turnbuckle cover. Sami Zayn catches him, bonks his head on the exposed steel from the turnbuckle, puts the pad back on and just loops the strings over the top of it so the ref can't see, and then hops back down off of the ring apron and pretends to be knocked out.
Oh, nice.
So the ref turns around and, Jimmy's just like stumbling around after eating a face full of exposed turnbuckle. Matt Riddle hits his finisher, gets the win. And then when he gets back in, of course, the ref's holding up Riddle's hands, and Sami Zayn and KO are trying to quickly tie the turnbuckle pad back on like a pair of clowns, and it was absolutely fantastic. I loved it.
I mean, that's what matters. The
Yeah,
entertainment.
I love, dude. Goofy wrestling is just some of my favorite stuff. Like, I understand, like, I want it to be serious sometimes, but there's sometimes where I'm like, I like a good laugh. Like, let's Three Stooges the shit out of this.
You have to, like, if you
Oh,
look
absolutely.
at the height of its career, like how many cheesy, weird, like goofy tag teams did they have? The Bushwhackers, like you mentioned, the Dudleys, they were an awkward, like they had that. What was the youngest one, the smallest one?
Like,
Right, he was like a super awkward character. So I mean, there is a time like where you have the goofy, corny things that come out, and it
yeah,
makes the show. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, that was like his whole thing back in the day.
Oh yeah.
he
Like,
was just super American, is what he was. He was just so American.
right,
Well, and
and
the
loved
best part is
trees.
whenever it is super cheesy, it's super corny and way over the top, and the people doing it are taking it so dead serious. That's the best moments right there to me. So
Fun trivia fact: Hacksaw Jim Duggan, first Royal Rumble winner, if I remember correctly. Pretty
oh,
sure
Dude, he
I'm
was
correct
so
on that one.
good.
He was a big beefy dude. He got kind of fat to the point where he was starting to have some serious health problems a few years ago. And then, of course, overcame and battled cancer here recently. So I'm glad he's on the road to recovery. Love Hacksaw Jim Duggan. So always wishing him the best. Next segment, we had Eric Bischoff, who looks haggard. I don't know if he's been sleeping well or what, but he needs to take a break. The man, not looking great. Shawn Michaels looked in better shape, which is saying a lot. Shawn Michaels looks tired too. I think both of them need to catch a couple of week-long vacations. Um, Next round of picks was Eric Bischoff and Rob Van Dam. Bischoff took Trish Stratus for Raw. RVD, who checked and make sure that his card was facing the correct direction this time, chose Karrion Cross. Bischoff picked Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey. Turns out Ronda Rousey injured. Hopefully she's coming back soon. Hopefully they take the tag team belts and then finally do something with them. We'll see.
yeah, I don't expect Rousey to stay away long.
I don't expect her to be injured for very long, but they need to put some type of gold around their waists, I should say, some gold around their waists to basically bring some legitimacy to that tag team belt. I think that's what the plan was going to be originally, and then Rousey got hurt. So hopefully that gets picked back up. Again, we'll see. You never really know. Final pick for that round, LA Knight going to SmackDown. Little disappointed, was kind of hoping he'd come over to Raw just because I absolutely adore LA Knight. If you have not had a chance, go check out some of his promos. The dude is just amazing on the mic, and Eric's got a funny look on his face, but that is his name. It's LA Knight. Okay, you got to get that shit right. Say it right the first time.
No, my look is because I was looking at the list of all the drafts too, like just kind of beaking and poking. Is Edge really back?
Yes, Edge has been back for a few years. He actually had a Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania against
Oh
Finn
my
Balor.
God.
Finn, 14 staples in his head from that match, still on the injured list. Thankfully, can come out and cut promos still, because you got to have him in the
Dude's
Judgment Day.
good.
I love Finn Balor, super athletic dude. Always want him to have a title of any kind. Like I said, the most disappointing thing is LA Knight going to SmackDown just because I wanted him on Raw, but it is what
So
it
do you
is.
watch Raw or SmackDown more?
I watch both. I mostly watch Raw.
Good to
So,
know.
yeah. Next segment was Miz TV. For those of you that don't know, for whatever reason, during the talking show, they have to do a talk show in the middle of the wrestling show. So that's what Miz TV is. Yeah, I have that same kind of look, Eric. I don't get it. It was kind of like the Cutting Edge when Edge had his little talk show, or Talk is Jericho, or Piper's Pit for Rowdy Piper. Those of you that watched wrestling at the beginning of TV, I think, is when that came out. When did TV start?
I
Sometime in the 40s.
I don't even remember the Roddy Piper one, and I
You don't
watched.
remember Piper's Pit? That was the one where Brutus the Barber Beefcake was just sitting there clacking the scissors like all stupid.
I don't remember. I'm gonna definitely Google it later,
Yeah,
but
you
I
should look at.
don't
There's some
remember
good.
that now.
Yeah, there were some good Piper Pit episodes, man.
I just remember his old movies with Hogan. He
Yeah,
had
because
some
that was.
interesting movies in the '90s.
Yeah, I'm here to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of gum. Um, but
Oh, that was
anyway,
that
yeah,
weird alien one.
yeah, God, with the sunglasses, it was terrible. By the way, you guys, if you haven't seen a terrible movie, go watch that one. If that one isn't terrible enough, I recommend Tammy and the T-Rex. I watched it the other night with my wife, who kept trying to leave the couch and who I would not let leave, because if I was going to watch that terrible movie, she was going to watch it with me.
Movie hostages.
Yeah, dude, Tammy and the T-Rex is terrible. Best Paul Walker movie, though. Mostly because he spends 2/3 of it as a T-Rex with no lines. But yeah, Miz TV had on Shinsuke Nakamura. They're still making tiny ball jokes at Miz. Some people love it, some people hate it. I will say, as part of a crowd participation thing, it's kind of funny to chant tiny balls anytime somebody tries to speak. So
Yeah, I mean anything you can get that's catchy with wrestling, I've always noticed is kind of the way to.
it's really easy to chant tiny balls. Like I don't know
That's what
if
I
you've
mean.
ever.
Like it's
Yeah,
kind of catchy and stuff. Oh,
try it.
that's
Try
the
it at the
show I was
grocery
looking
store.
for.
Try it at the grocery store.
Thunder in Paradise. That was the show I was looking for.
Oh god, yeah, I'm sure it was fantastic cinematography. Anyway, Shinsuke Nakamura officially coming to officially coming to Raw, I should say, from SmackDown, which is great. I love Shinsuke Nakamura. He deserves a top title in WWE at some point just because he puts on amazing matches. He also led chants talking about Miz's tiny balls, which, like I said, is the new gimmick for Miz. Shinsuke Nakamura hit him with the Kinshasa. Everybody cheered. Pretty standard stuff for Miz TV. If there's a guest on Miz TV, they're either going to get beat up by whoever the heel is that's facing them, or they're going to beat up the Miz. That's almost 100% what always happens.
Poor Miz, man.
Yeah, well, he knows he knows what he's there for.
He had a bit of a
Um,
run, didn't he, for a while,
oh
where he
yeah,
was
I mean
rather popular?
he's held the title twice, if I remember correctly, like the top title twice. And he's a great worker, he's a good performer, but he knows what his purpose is right now in WWE, and that's to be that kind of dick host um, for these things. So he did a good job. He's putting Shinsuke over, which is again one of those things that you have to do as a wrestler, is to be able to elevate other people. So I'm not going to knock him for that. He did a good job of it. Next match was Omos versus. I had to look this one up because I don't remember. Anthony Alanis. Never heard of that man. 30-second match. The guy got in a little bit of offense. Almost punched him twice, hit him with the tree slam, did the disrespectful pin where he just puts the boot in the middle of his chest. Great, you're building almost up to be a monster. He's boring. I don't need another like slow-moving ponderous heel. He doesn't talk. His real like the dude's a super nerd. Like he's into anime. He gets like super hyped talking about video games and anime and manga and all this other stuff. And like you could bill him as this gentle giant and just let him be Omos until you get enough people cheering for him, and then you can slowly start turning him heel. But like as it sits, he's just boring. He's we do big matches. I'm strong because I'm tall. Tree slam victory, and that's it. Like just. I feel like they could be doing more for him. If you're gonna bill him as this like unstoppable force, at least make him like a goobery good guy, to where he loses by trickery. But again, I'm not a writer for WWE, so my opinion hardly matters. Up next, and I'm ashamed to say I didn't recognize her at first. Molly Holly came out to do some draft picks. I didn't recognize her at first, was a little ashamed of myself because I used to watch her matches religiously way back during the Attitude and Ruthless Aggression era. But she did come out with the Road Dogg Jesse James. You will, of course, always recognize him as one half of the New Age Outlaws.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the Road Dogg. He also got very old very quickly. He and Shawn Michaels are going to be in the senior living center together very soon, I feel.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely, both of them. I mean, you got.
They just got. I mean, they just got old.
Fake.
They just got old.
And people want to say wrestling's fake, and like I agree to a point, but you're still taking a beating. Like it's not. It's not as bad as it looks most of the time.
Yeah, staged does not mean painless. Like
right.
Oh yeah. Well,
so they still take a beating and they drink all the time. Like listen to Undertaker's stories and like they travel a lot. They don't get a lot of rest. Like your body needs rest, regardless of what people want to think. Like I could drink and party forever. You need rest, man. And they're on the road. Like I give it to wrestlers, man. Until I got older and really like did my research, I didn't realize, man. Like they get no rest because they have to work out and also work. So like they have to do all this. They're probably eating like shit because they're on the road. So their bodies aren't healing right. So man, you gotta give.
That's the big thing about it is when you're watching something like WWE, it's just like watching Batman or any anime where the writers can't speed up healing time.
Yeah.
And so it's an excellent display of athleticism, despite how scripted or created or not it is.
Yeah. Deleted Twitter post from MJF, who, by the way, best AEW heel wrestler ever, kind of goes into that, where he's just like, don't ruin your body for one big spot for people that are gonna, boo you the next night if it's not at that same caliber. He's like, don't kill yourself just to go down in history for the biggest spot ever. I kind of get that. Like I can support that. Of course, you want to have a long and lasting career, but I digress. Molly Holly, Road Dogg came out. Raw took Braun Strowman and Ricochet. SmackDown took Shotzi Blackheart. Raw picked up Bronson Reed. And SmackDown got Pretty Deadly, which is the tag team of Elton Prince and Kit Wilson, I believe is his last name. Yeah, Wilson. NXT absolutely gutted after these 2 nights of the draft. They must have picked up a ton of unannounced talent or something, but that show definitely got shooken up pretty big because NXT is just empty as it sits right now.
I was going to say, did they incorporate NXT in any way in the show itself? Because I watched it like when it first came out, like when they were feuding with each other, the shows and stuff like that. So again, not a recent viewer, apologies. But so like I'm used to the competitive nature and like the shows trying to beat the shit out of each other. And also not having that amateur league, which I think is one of the smartest things WWE ever did. Like professional sports do it. Why were you not doing this sooner?
I mean, they had the partnerships. It was just Ohio Valley Wrestling was basically where you went when you were getting built up to go to WWE before you went to the Performance Center. So it was Ohio Valley Wrestling. Then you went down to the Performance Center in Florida, tune up your skills a little bit. They'd work on your gimmick, and then you made a debut. They've just streamlined the process and just combined the Performance Center in Florida with Ohio Valley Wrestling. So you have your people that are up and coming go to NXT. Once they're ready, they get called up to the main roster. We'll see where it goes. I think the most disrespectful thing that happened during this entire draft was the fact that Johnny Gargano did not get picked at all.
So what
Johnny,
does that mean?
if you hear this, I'm sorry. He got just an untelevised announced like Twitter post. They just made a WWE Twitter just made a post saying he would be on Raw, and that was it. And I really feel like Johnny Wrestling deserved a little more fanfare than a Twitter post. So
Yeah, that seems like they did him pretty dirty.
yeah,
Or they're
God.
phasing him out.
I don't think they're phasing him out. I think Triple H was desperate to get crowd hype back up after Vince debacles, because
That's a
he
good
made his
point.
debut when Trips was finally officially taking over creative. And I think it was one of those things for Triple H was like, everybody loves Johnny Gargano, bringing Johnny Gargano back. And then he was like, fuck, I don't know what to do with this guy. So we'll see where it goes. Hopefully he gets some TV time soon.
So what's with the weird people? Like I say this and they're not weird.
It's
Like the
wrestling.
Logan
Everybody's weird.
Paul, like Logan Paul and Pat McAfee and stuff that randomly wrestle. Obviously, they're not part of the draft, I would imagine, because they're probably just going to do WrestleManias and stuff like that.
Yeah, Paul is going to do whatever big show is up next for Paul. Able dude in the ring. He's just got that celebrity status, so they don't bring him on like full time for the shows, which
Yeah.
I go back and forth on. Like I said, it's fine. It's fine. I just not a huge fan of Logan Paul, and I really hate Prime Energy Drink because it's like one big commercial during his wrestling matches for it, and I hate that product placement shit. Well, that's gonna be a whole different episode where I rant about that because I could go on for hours. But I digress.
Again, rant worthy. Just saying.
God, yeah. But yeah, Judgment Day made their way down to the ring, which those of you that don't know, Judgment Day is Finn Balor, Damian Priest, Rhea Ripley, and Dominic Mysterio, the greatest heel wrestler of all time. And I am going to provide supporting evidence for that statement. Number one, Judgment Day is, of course, bad guys. They got booed all the way down to the ring. Pretty standard fare. Damian Priest went on a rant how he was going to beat up Bad Bunny because they're going to have a match down the road, which is fine. I think Backlash is going to be in Puerto Rico, so Bad Bunny and Damian Priest are having a street fight, which should be dope. I hope Bad Bunny wins just to get the extra publicity. But the What Chance came out, which those of you that don't remember was the Stone Cold Steve Austin thing. Anytime somebody took a breath or had a pause, anytime, everybody shouted what. Love that that is still going on. It's a fantastic thing to do to the heel wrestlers. They played it up. Now, the part we got to my favorite spot of the entire night, and I loved it. Dominic Mysterio had one line he was supposed to get out. We booed as a crowd so loud and so hard for 5 minutes. He had a 5-second talking point that he could not get out for 5 straight minutes of booing to the point where it was causing problems with their pickup mics around the ring. For those of you that watched the show, they toned it down.
Wow.
Everybody was booing and hissing and making noise loud enough to where my wife had to cover her ears. She has very sensitive hearing, and it was loud enough for her to be like, hearing safety, right? So,
Right.
and I mean, it would die down like because it hit that peak intensity and it'd start to die down. So he would just start to pick the mic up to his face, and it would crescendo again. You Suck Chance came out. Again, all he had was one like 5-second line, and for 5 solid minutes, he just couldn't spit it out. And it was probably the greatest thing I have ever seen in
You
wrestling.
can't mess with Rey Mysterio, dude.
No, man.
One of the best wrestlers ever.
Yeah.
Probably the most energetic guy you ever. And whose finisher was truly cooler than the 619? Like Stone Cold, forever my favorite. Love the stunner. And the way people would sell it was awesome. But like the 619 to do that and not hurt somebody at the same time,
or yourself for that matter.
right? Impressive. Like now it seems a little bit easier because everyone's a little bit more athletic. It looks like,
Yeah,
so it's not quite what it was. But like he was doing that shit to like some non-athletic dudes. Like I love the NWO, but like let's keep it real with how athletic a lot of them dudes were. Like
speaking of the NWO, you got one of their counterparts that came to the ring. Latino World Order is back, now being led by Rey Mysterio.
interesting.
Yeah, in fantastic see with LWO back, man. That was for those of you that don't know, old faction in WCW that actively competed against the NWO, and it was made up of Latin American wrestlers. So you had Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero. I forget who else was in it back in the day. Forgive me. It's been a
I'll look
long
it up.
time
Yeah.
since I've watched those. But yeah, Latino World Order, Rey Mysterio, Santos Escobar, um, Zelina Vega. Who else was in it? I'll have to scroll back. Let's see what I can say. Latino World Order. Not important. I'm not even going to worry about it. So yeah, we got a square off between Latino World Order and the Judgment Day. Match was super exciting. Santos Escobar gonna be a big name. I have a feeling in the WWE. He fits the body profile that Vince likes. And if Vince likes him, it doesn't matter if Triple H wants to bury him or not. He's going to make it up to the top. Just look at the fact that Omos is still around and he's the most boring dude on the planet right now. Judgment Day did pick up the win. Of course, they had a man advantage with Finn Balor being on the outside of the ring to run interference. Blocked the 619. Damian Priest hits the big choke slam on Ray, got the pinfall victory. Did get to see the good Ray spots. He did threaten to beat his son with La Chancla, so anytime Dominic Mysterio was in the ring, everybody just started chanting Chancla, which again, I love wrestling, just because who thought I would ever be screaming the word Chancla at the top of my lungs?
Oh, that's the best part. Is realistically, anytime you see one of these events, it is so over the top. It's a delight. It really is.
I think wrestling is like a lot of sports in the sense. Well, it is a sport, but I mean
Yeah.
in the sense of like they're just more exciting live. I can't sit and watch a lot of sporting events anymore, or sit and watch them on TV as much as I used to. Mostly now it's playoff stuff I'll watch, but like I'll go to any live sporting event. Like I don't even like baseball. Sorry, baseball fans, but I will go to a stadium. Like I will go to a stadium and watch some baseball.
I'm with you 100%. Baseball is way more exciting to watch live than it is on TV. I can't stand baseball on TV, but I will go down to the stadium and watch the guys play.
But yeah, I definitely think wrestling's in the same boat. Like I've only seen it when I was younger, like kid, teenager ages
Right.
time for like, dude, it is fucking awesome. And I can only imagine that it's gotten exponentially better by this stage, especially for live shows, because you could do a lot more. And like wrestlers even take damage going to the ring now from stuff like Triple H got that ice on him that messed
Yeah.
him all up, dry ice. He
Yeah.
tried like getting it off his body, ended up with like some serious burns. Like these
Undertaker
dudes are
caught on
going all out.
fire. Undertaker
Yeah.
caught on fire down to the ring. Yeah. His whole
I
jacket
was
was on fire. He was mad as shit. He told that pyro dude, he's like, it's looking a little close.
yeah,
All
I
right,
was
so
actually about to bring that up. It's like Undertaker got lit on fire.
Fire.
I have your members, old and present. So old members of your Latino World Order, Eddie Guerrero, Hector Garza, Damian El Dondi,
Yep.
Psychosis, La Parca, Spider, Rey Mysterio Jr., Juventud Guerrera. Sorry, I said that wrong. This one, Cyclope, Silver King, and Villano V. Those are the old
Okay.
ones. New ones, Rey Mysterio, Santos Escobar, Joaquin Wild, Raul Mendoza, and Zelina Vega.
I thought Legado del Fantasma was on there, but I could be misremembering that. Who knows? But yeah, next round of draft picks came out. It was Teddy Long and JBL, which was good to see. JBL, that man looks exactly the same. I don't think he ages. He has looked the same since when he was feuding with the Funks, like way back, before he even teamed up with the Undertaker
That
and
is
APA.
so long
That dude
ago.
has been around forever, and he looks
All right,
the
hold on.
same.
I gotta find a picture. Hold on.
Yeah, the only thing
JBL.
that's different is that he doesn't have the big handlebar mustache anymore. But it doesn't look like he's aged. Time has skipped him by. Teddy Long, on the other hand, also looks exactly the same, but he's looked old since I've known of Teddy Long. So I don't know what that says about him. Maybe he just has that kind of look. He did
I
come
mean,
out super hyped, though. I love Teddy Long. The dude's just excited to be out there doing stuff, and that's always contagious. So, JBNL was announcing for Raw. They picked Alpha Academy, which is Chad Gable and Otis. We did have to take a brief pause while everybody shouted "shush," which is the catchphrase for Alpha Academy. Shush, shush, please. Rick Boogs had the best picture for the draft picture, which, Ryan, you should look it up. It's a pose I think you will definitely be a huge fan of, is the Rick Boogs draft image. So good.
Wow.
Yeah, right?
Just wow.
Yeah,
hold on, we
best,
gotta
I
put it up
had to
so people
Google it.
can see that. What's
best
it called? I'm gonna pull it
best
up.
picture of the night. It's Rick Boog's draft picture. He's got his like arms crossed and he's got his chin
Yeah.
tucked in with his big mustache, and yeah, it's so good. It was so
Yeah.
good.
I'm trying
I
to
was
pull it up
hoping,
for everybody.
I was really hoping that graphic would stay up all night. I could have looked at the jumbotron with Rick Boogs' weird pose. Um, JBL again, another NXT call up, picked up Katana Chance and Caden Carter. I don't know what NXT is going to be doing here recently, man. All those big name people, all those bright stars that they had are getting drafted this go round. Final pick for SmackDown was Cameron Grimes, also from NXT. It's about time he got picked up. He's been a fantastic performer since he's made his debut. I was really expecting last year kind of to be the time for him to come forward, but probably holding off for draft day, which was a good choice, give him a chance to brush up on the last little bit of those character skills, things like that they would need.
All right, I think I
So,
got it.
the
You got
Rick Boogs,
you got it
that Rick
pulled up.
Boogs picture is so good, man.
All right, everybody, just so you can kind of see, because we don't always do live, so we
Yeah.
definitely gotta do big things. Would
Make the
that
most
be
out
it?
of it.
No, that's not even it. I
Oh
mean,
my god,
yeah. Let me see if
It's
I can find it real
similar.
quick.
I threw one into the Discord that I think might be the right one.
that is. I didn't realize he played an electric guitar.
He does. He's actually a really good guitar player, but his draft picture was just here. Let me.
Just
How
the
do I?
key.
How do I share my screen here?
Should be right on the bottom. Technical difficulties, folks. Like we
Yeah.
Oh,
said, we don't,
it's
we
the
don't
best
do a
part
lot of
about being
live.
live. Yeah, it's the best
Yeah,
part about
here.
being live is the technical difficulties.
For sure. But you got like we're talking so much about it, you got to share. People have got to experience
yeah.
the.
That's it right there.
There we
Those
go.
of you
So it
that
is the one.
with the little
Oh my
flipped up hair
god,
and the super flat caterpillar
dude!
mustache. Absolutely amazing. Like I said, best picture of
Who
draft
does he
night.
remind me of? He reminds me of an old wrestler. I'm trying to think of who.
He reminds me of a very buff Freddie Mercury.
Oh man.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Like I said,
That's actually true.
best draft picture of the night goes to Rick Boogs. Hopefully goes down in memoriam. I'm expecting a better picture next year. And by better, I mean just as awkward and weird as that one. His gigantic neck ate his tiny chin, which was amazing. Had a breakdown of the Backlash card. Not going to go into it. Ton of matches on it. If you guys are interested, just look it up. WWE's announced pretty much every match that's going to be happening. Final aspect of the night, Solo Sikoa versus Seth Rollins. Another good spot was the fact that the match couldn't get started because everybody was still singing Seth Rollins music, which again is always fun that crowd involvement causes delays. You could tell some of the finish got a little rushed towards the end. They were running very, very tight on time, mostly because as an audience, we delayed the Judgment Day promo that they were doing by a solid 5 minutes because nobody wanted Dominic Mysterio to speak, which again is my favorite thing in wrestling. I have never seen anybody so universally hated. There's not a single person that was like, "Yay, Dominic!" Like Finn would say some things, and you'd have those people being edgy and cool that wanted to cheer for the bad guy. We're also booing Dominic, so it's like split the difference between the faction, except for Dom. Anytime Dom said anything, it was just instant boos. Anytime he got in the ring, instant boos.
Another thing with wrestling, you got to figure that's the one sport where they want the delays.
Yeah,
Like, they don't,
'cause it
but
means
they
the crowd's
do.
Oh
into
yeah.
it. Like,
Well,
yeah,
and the crowd involvement is actually such a huge component to everything. They want it to work out and they want it to be evolved. And you know they have to allot like a huge amount of time for things like that. And to be rushed at the end just shows that the crowd was hyped, they were invested, and I'm about it. I think it's a good thing.
but yeah, Seth Rollins, his big gimmick now is that he directs, like conducts the singing of his song with the audience in attendance, which is fantastic. Again, caused a little delay in that match as Solo Sikoa kept trying to get everybody to stop singing, which is typical heel stuff for WWE.
Of course.
Good back and forth between the two. Both of them are fantastic workers. Both of them in great shape. Very few rest spots for this particular match. Sheamus, or not Sheamus, Rollins, of course, did a dive because it's 2023 wrestling. And if somebody doesn't dive out of the ring in almost every match, a giant meteor will strike the earth and we will all die. So we can thank both AEW and WWE for keeping the giant meteor away. That's just my explanation to why there's so many dives.
There's got to be an explanation somewhere.
Yes.
I mean, it used to be exciting because it was rare.
Yeah, Simon Miller and I, which by the way, if you guys like a wrestling recap shows that happen consistently, Ups and Downs from What Culture, hosted by Simon Miller, super dope show. He does a really good job breaking down the action. But yeah, so Rollins Sikoa, good back and forth. Solo Sikoa hit the spinning solo, which is his finishing move, very similar to the rock bottom. Match ended in a DQ, which is a little disappointing. I always hate seeing those finishes. They happen a lot. But it did lead up to what the actual finish was going to be. Bloodline, of course, rushes in, beats up Seth Rollins. Matt Riddle, Sami Zayn, and KO got to come in and make the save. Everybody was chanting and having a good time to the point where everybody was chanting for Sami to get the stunner. So the heels, instead of turning tail and running, which is what I feel the script was supposed to be, came back into the ring to try and fight them off just so they could set up a series of finishers. So you got to see the haluva kick, you got to see the stomp, you got to see the stunner, you got to see Matt Riddle be a goober because that's what he's there for, is so people could chant bro. But yeah, and that was the night. Good show. Had some aspects that I wasn't just a super huge fan of. Again, I don't know what's happening with the women's tag team belts, and that's always disappointing because I want them to do well. You know, that's a whole portion of the locker room that deserves TV time, and I really feel like the women's tag team titles were just kind of like a band-aid where they're like, here you go. And now they don't know what to do with it.
You know what title I miss? The 24/7 title.
Oh God,
Yeah.
you can get the hell out of this channel right now. The only good thing about the 24/7 title was that it put R-Truth on my TV more often. I absolutely love R-Truth. The dude, he knows exactly what his deal is supposed to be, and he plays it up so well. He is still injured, sadly, had a pretty significant knee injury. I'm hoping he gets to make a comeback, but he is 52, somewhere around there. So the dude looks great. He's aging like JBL. Yeah, he looks like he's 30.
He does. I'm
on the fact.
So if people want to look things up, WWE.com/superstars, pull up the rosters. They look updated. That's why I'm not looking directly into the camera a lot. I'm trying to keep up with Travis and kind of see what wrestlers are where. And I'm looking at the NXT roster now, and it looks kind of shallow. Like, I don't know how many there's supposed to be. Technically, I think you're going to get a surprise, and I'm guessing. This is a 100% guess, because if you go on and you look through the whole roster, there's still a random vacant slot. I don't know why you would ever put that on a website. So I don't know if that's like a grab at trying to get people's attention, or like there's somebody coming, but I'm very interested in that, like, because that's on the main page like the
Yeah.
main roster page. So like that's something that's gonna come out. I'd be curious to see what they're gonna do. But like you said, the NXT roster, like
Gutted.
I don't. It just none of them look. I don't know how to explain it. You could definitely tell it's young.
Yeah,
It's a
one,
younger
it's
group, a younger crew, like, and it's people that are trying to find themselves.
Yeah,
yeah,
trying
You
it's
to
could
people that are
see
establish a
that.
name.
they're working on their characters, they're working on their mic skills, working on in-ring skills. It's definitely like a pickup promotion. Now, when Triple H had it in the black and gold brand, um, probably their best put together show that was on TV between SmackDown, Raw, and NXT. NXT was just killing it, um, which was great. A lot of those guys were getting plenty of TV time, but they weren't picking up as many like younger, fresh talents. He had a lot of dudes that got pretty established on the show, which is fine. Like I said, that's always good news. It's kind of switched over to where they're picking up more of those promotional guys, more of those people they're trying to build up that name, which means that you get some really cool characters in NXT. You also get some pretty bad flops. Tony D'Angelo, to me, being a flop. He's a mobster, and he talks with the real fake mobster accent, like he's almost from
Ah,
Boston,
there
but
he
also
is.
sort of from New York. Yeah,
I'm
not.
walking here.
Yeah, it's not. It's not doing it for me. Um,
So I did have kind of a follow up because I'm doing the same thing, trying to keep up with Travis. I'm trying to follow the names, and so I've been
Just in
kind
case
of
anyone wants to
surfing.
see him.
And there you go.
oh, sorry. Um,
But anyway,
Great
so
wrestler, bad gimmick.
I'm looking at one right now, and it's from the Bleacher Report, where they were ranking the drafts and what they thought and their opinions. I wanted to see what you think, whether you agree or whether you disagree. And all I'm going to cover is the number one and the bottom. So the worst ranking, we'll start there, according to the Bleacher Report, was LA Knight going to SmackDown. What are your thoughts?
LA Knight deserves to be on Raw. LA Knight deserves to be on TV consistently and frequently. Raw right now is stacked with baby faces. It would have done them a really good job to pick up an additional heel. And LA Knight can elicit both cheers and boos in the same promo. The dude knows how to work a crowd. He would have been really, really, really good on Raw because you can't beat LA Knight. Like, he's got it figured out. The dude is amazing. Um, like I said, if you ever have a chance to listen to some of his promos, he always starts them off the same way as "Let me talk to you," and anytime he finishes a sentence, he goes "Ha yeah," and he's so good on the mic. He deserves more than getting lost in the sauce with all the other heels that have gone over to SmackDown. There's no way you can turn him all the way face. So yeah, bad draft placement. I don't think he's a bad get. I just really wish he had been on Raw.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's a lot of talk about how it would have been really nice to put him as a rival up against Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre.
Yeah,
That it would have been really nice.
so many baby faces that he could have gone against as LA Knight and just been the despicable, dastardly man that he is. And like I said, just elicit boos with one sentence and then cheers with the next. The guy is fantastic on the microphone.
Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, according to Bleacher
Let me
Report,
Can I guess? Can I guess before
yeah,
you say it?
hit me.
Rhea Ripley.
It's not Ripley. It's Imperium going to Raw.
That's fair. I will get into that. Gunther is out of people to wrestle on SmackDown.
Oh, okay.
He has beat that roster. Barring a few exceptions of Roman Reigns deciding he wants a mid-card title all of a sudden, the dude has beat literally everyone. There's no one for him to feud with. Moving him to Raw, correct choice, opens up a whole brand new batch of feuds that you could get into. So yeah, I mean, obviously the one with Drew McIntyre is finished. His rivalry with Sheamus is finished. He'll have to wait a little while before he finishes his grand slam, as it were, of being able to hold every title once. Sheamus is just the Intercontinental Championship away from having the prestigious Grand Slam of titles. But definitely the right choice moving all of Imperium to Raw. It gives. I forget the two little guys' names that are in Imperium.
Who's the big one that's in Imperium?
Gunther. Yeah, Gunther. He's the IC title holder. But yeah, I think Giovanni Vinci is one of them in Imperium, and I forget the other guy's name, but I digress. Good tag team. They make fantastic little minions to Gunther for Imperium. So good to see Gunther being moved to Raw just so he can get a fresh batch of faces to go against. Fantastic performer. He really is. He's a great wrestler. He had probably one of the best matches of WrestleMania. I talked about that on the WrestleMania recap rift.
You did.
Yeah, a great match. Just an absolute great match with Sheamus and Drew McIntyre. So yeah, excited to see what he does on Raw. I think that was a good pick. So
It's definitely interesting that it was the number one. Like I said, I'm not following as much, but like I would have definitely thought, like Ripley's just blown up outside of wrestling.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
that's
Yeah.
the thing. Like she's, and I don't even think she mentioned it before, but I don't even know if she likes the comparison. She's almost like in the sense when China came to wrestling, um, in a similar fashion. Like the big difference being is that ladies wrestling's more established now than when China came in. But Ripley
right.
seems to be just as big or bigger than
I
when
think
China was.
pound for pound stronger.
You think so?
Pound for pound fewer steroids.
Well, in her
Throwing
defense, the
shade.
era.
Yeah.
I get it. Like it was a part of the time, and nothing against her as an individual. She was done dirty by WWE as a corporation. I get that. Nothing against China on a personal level. Rhea Ripley, fantastically more talented than China ever could have been, in my opinion. You bring them both to the same era, neck and neck. China had so much that she would have to work on just to get to the level of Rhea Ripley. Was China strong? Yes. Was she big? Yes. Was she Rhea Ripley strong? Absolutely not.
And one thing in China's defense, it was a different era, so
It was a
I'm
much
gonna go
different
with
time.
Ripley. Probably had a lot more development than China got. So China was a lot more, as cheesy as it is to say, a lot more raw of a character. So I'm gonna wager that she didn't have the developmental time. She didn't have the build up. Like she just hit the industry like a fucking ton of bricks and
And
just came in crazy.
again, nothing against her as a promotion. It was a different time in
Yeah.
wrestling, right? Rhea Ripley just more talented. She is crazy strong. Like she just dead pressed Rey Mysterio over the top of her head. Which, for those of you that don't know, Rey Mysterio looks very small on TV. He's an average-sized man.
Yeah.
He,
It's
yeah,
one of those
he's
things where you need an average person as a point of comparison,
yeah,
right?
he's the average person compared to all of these giants. Rhea Ripley is just, again, just massively talented, puts on fantastic matches, knows her character, performs it well, leans into her gimmick, which right now is the muscle mommy, which
The strong
again,
mommy.
yeah, which is again fantastic. I absolutely love it. So yeah, I'm shocked that they didn't say Rhea Ripley was the number one because it does move her to a new show. It does give her new feuds, which is great. I always like seeing new feuds. I hope they keep billing her as this unstoppable monster. I want her to become the Undertaker of the women's division. Like, I want somebody to come out there and do what Teddy Long was doing on SmackDown with the Undertaker. So you go on one with Rhea Ripley, and like the person just loses their shit in the ring, right? Because nobody wants to
Right.
be going up against Rhea Ripley. That's the level I want her to get to.
Now, what happens to the belts? So she's SmackDown Women's Champ, but she's going to Raw.
Yes,
So how do they work the belts out
they'll
usually?
probably do a belt exchange where like, okay, you hand your Raw title to her, she hands the SmackDown title to you, everybody just high fives and like off you go. I think, who knows, I don't know how they're going to do it. Definitely not going to pull the belts off of them, because if you pull the belt off Rhea Ripley, you have messed up massively. They haven't built anybody up on that roster to even remotely pose a threat, to the point where Zelina Vega is literally just a throwaway for a pay-per-view. It is. It wouldn't make sense for Zelina Vega to hold the title. She's fantastic. She's a great worker. She's great on the mic. I love watching her perform. Not set to dethrone Rhea Ripley right now. Io Sky is not taking the title off Bianca Belair. Sorry, not happening. So they'll probably just do a belt exchange sometime after the draft has been solidified. Probably at Night of Champions we'll do the belt exchange. Or the SmackDown's women's title may just become the Raw women's title and vice versa. However they want to handle it. I just don't see either one of them being dethroned as champion. Especially
No,
with
I didn't think that.
Yeah, especially with Rhea Ripley fresh off that big win over Charlotte Flair. Like when you dethrone the queen, you're doing something right.
Yeah, no, they got something there with her, like just to see. Like I said, I've been out of the loop wrestling. Most of my Twitter and things like that is all, it's definitely all like sports and like different things, nerd stuff, video games,
Yeah.
and she's still like just destroying my feed, like, and it's nuts.
If you like video game streaming, we can combine the two. Check out Up Up Down Down with Xavier Woods. He plays video games and is also a professional wrestler with The New Day. Speaking of The New Day, I hope Big E is doing well. I hope he continues to heal from his neck surgery, and I hope that I get to see him in the ring again one day because he's just the power of positivity. So, but that was the Raw recap. Looking forward to see what wrestling looks like this year before we
it was
do
good
it all
riff.
again.
And I will definitely start partaking so we can have some more exchanges of words in the wrestling. I have TV again, as weird as that sounds to say. I've been, well, I mean, everybody
How far
uses.
north are you?
Well, I mean, like in the sense of like live TV. Everyone's got like the Netflixes and everything like that, and I don't know if Raw's on any sort of streaming service. So,
Peacock, and I believe it's still on Hulu. You can catch them a couple of weeks
can't get
after.
Hulu in Canada.
It's on Peacock.
So, but yeah, I'll be checking it out. Like, I'll pay more attention. We definitely should cover some more wrestling stuff. Like, all of you fans out there, like, you all seem, one of the biggest things we usually get is if we do wrestling, like, you all seem to come out in droves. So, like, it's definitely something we want to do more of. I mean, and it's probably because you kind of look like Sheamus. I mean, I'm never going to let that die. But
that's fine.
Yeah, so people do come out in droves for it. And just so everybody knows, crossingthenerdverse.com. That's all I'm going to say in regards to our stuff. It's got our podcast, it's got our merch, it's got our YouTube.
Everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a little blurb and I mean, it's what you need. So if you want to catch us, you want anything with that, go there. It's even got links to the Twitter. It's got links to, pretty sure, the Facebook group. So everything is there. Just crossingthenerdverse.com. And we actually pop up right when you Google. We found that out this evening. Just kind of messing around with some stuff.
And with that, that'll bring this rift to a close. Thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
See you guys.